Hello there everyone, how you doing today? I hope you're all well. Today we're going into the creepypasta mines and reading one of the classics, Pokémon Lost Soul Silver. If you enjoy, remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment down below with what story you want me to read next. And let's get started, shall we? It all started 8 years ago, when I read several Pokémon creepypastas that terrified me. At the time, I'd only played through the first 3 generations of Pokémon games. I didn't even know what ROM hacks were back then. For some reason, I decided I wanted to try out a 4th generation Pokémon game, so I decided to start with the remake of Pokémon Silver. In a rather dramatic twist, I found the Soul Silver cartridge in a nearby dumpster. The cover of the cartridge was heavily worn. Lugia was barely recognizable, scribbled over with a marker, but the box itself wasn't too bad. Inside was a note. "No, do not play it. This is a madman's tool of torment. Do not take it." The handwriting was fairly neat, and curiosity made me want to explore the game even more. Could it be a prank by the previous player? I can only say now that I regret picking it up. It was a weekend, and I secretly brought the found box home without telling my family. I didn't want them to know I had brought home trash. I went to my room, inserted the Soul Silver cartridge into my Nintendo DS, and started the game. The opening animation was normal, the background music played as expected, but there was already a save file. The player's name was Ethan, and the save was in Violet City with no Pokemon caught. I tried to select new game, but it didn't work. I had no choice but to start the game from that save file. After entering the game, my character stood at the entrance of Sprout Tower. I turned around and had my character wander around Violet City for a while. I noticed the game was slightly dim, and had my character wander around Violet City for a while. There were no NPCs on the streets. Even the route leading out of Violet City was blocked. All the doors were locked and I couldn't enter, including the Pokemon and Pokemon Center. It seems the game was deliberately pushing me towards Sprout Tower, so I reluctantly entered. There was no one in the tower either, and I couldn't leave the way I came in, so I attempted to walk towards the top of the tower. As I moved my character, the bottom screen displayed a notification, and a Pokemon option appeared. I opened the option to check my team, and what I saw startled me. The team was composed entirely of unknown, all at level 5 with only 1 HP. I checked them one by one, and the letters they formed spelled escape. Ironically, I could not escape the tower, and that's when I realized the meaning of the notes. The cartridge was like the Lost Silver story, intentionally modified by someone and discarded to torment others. I reached the top of the tower, where I found a large hole in one of the pillars, and the ladder I came up on had vanished. I braced myself, knowing the pillar was likely a gateway to some blood-red room. I controlled my character to enter, and as expected, inside was a blood-red room. However, unlike Lost Silver, Ethan's character was surrounded by a faint light, as if he had forgotten to use flash in the dark areas like in Ruby Sapphire versions. I walked around the room looking for something, but all I found were some deep red letters in the corner of the room. There was nothing else to interact with. The words I saw were reborn, replace, and eternal. So far, my team had not changed, and the 6 unknown still spelled escape. This room was about 2 tiles wide. As I walked further, the room gradually became brighter. It felt like the path was longer than in the fan-made Lost Silver remake I had played. I pressed the B button to run for almost a minute before I reached the end. I tried to inspect the wall at the end, but a dialogue box popped up, saying, "Pray." The only options were yes and no, but the yes was grayed out. I kept selecting no 4 times in a row, and then Ethan's sprite rotated and moved upward off the screen. Then I found out the game's scene had changed to outside of Mount Silver, but everything's pale. The inner layout was the same as the old Silver version, and the graphic is completely Nintendo DS-like. I don't need to use flash to light the cave. Reaching the depths of the cave, they were supposed to be red, but I saw another person. His sprite on the map had no limbs and eyes that appeared hollow. I tried to get closer to him, but I was pulled into a fight. The background was pitch black without any music. His image was more detailed now, and they looked even more unsettling. ... wanted to fight. ... sent out Celebi. The opponent sent out a shiny half Celebi, but its level was 255 with no battle cry. This was impossible. Before I could react, Ethan sent out a Cyndaquil, and its name was Cry. It was level 0 with 0 HP. It lacked the signature flame on its back and was crying. I checked the rest of the team, and the 5 remaining unknown were all spelting out death. I tried to fight, but when I pressed the battle button, it just popped a text with the words, "Cry can't move." Then the opponent's Celebi used Perish Song. Over the next 3 turns, I couldn't do anything, because my Cyndaquil couldn't act, and my opponent's sprite kept fading in and out after every turn, with only silence. The 3rd turn drained Celebi's HP, pushing it off screen, as if the game were glitching. My Cyndaquil's HP was reduced to negative 255 out of 0, and the game emitted a piercing shrill noise that lasted 5 seconds. Without any animation, Cyndaquil appeared from the screen, and the game declared that it had died. The opponent's character reappeared from the right side of the screen, now with arms. After skipping through a few empty by pressing A, I blacked out and lost the battle. When the screen lit back up, my character was at the Pokémon Center. There was no one else around, but the color scheme and brightness were normal. At this point, I noticed something strange. Ethan's character no longer had arms, and it seemed as if they had been violently ripped off, with blood dripping from the stumps. I checked the trainer card, and the unknown in my team had changed again, spelling belong. I left the Pokémon Center, and the world around was pale Goldenrod City. There was still no exit, but faceless NPCs anywhere. Every time I interacted with one, an unknown with red eyes appeared, and the NPC would vanish. After completing the final conversation, my character made the motion of using the escape rod and returned to the Pokémon Center in Goldenrod. The entire city turned purple, and I continued to interact with previously encountered NPCs. But this time the unknown spelled out a new sentence. "I have never met you." I was then forced into another battle. The background was still pitch black with no music. This time, my opponent was a faceless version of myself. His appearance matched the trainer card, and he was crying, missing his arms. In this battle, neither side used Pokémon, and the only move my Ethan could use was Takedown, while my opponent only used Struggle, causing damage to himself. Unsurprisingly, the opponent's Ethan fainted first, but he used Destiny Bond on me, and both of the Ethans disappeared from the screen. After the battle, I was transported back to Sprout Tower. Ethan's trainer card sprite was even more damaged now. He had lost his legs and was crying blood. There was no animation while moving. I checked the team, and there was now a level 100 Celebi at the end of the list. It was only half of a Celebi named myself. The remaining unknown formed the word slain. I went through the same process, reaching the top of the tower and entering the pillar hole. Inside the blood-red room, I was back at the end of the corridor. I tried inspecting the wall again, and this time both options were yes. With no other choice, I pressed A. The once bright corridor gradually darkened, and the faceless person I had seen on Mount Silver appeared and slowly approached me. Another battle began, and I noticed this person now had limbs. But Ethan, which I controlled, had lost limbs after 2 battles. ... sent out please. It's a level 255 Typhlosion without a face and lower body. Then I sent out my half-shiny Celebi, even though it wasn't in the first slot. Due to the level difference, Typhlosion attacked first, using Dream Eater, but nothing happened. Myself used Perish Song. I used my only move to attack the opponent's Typhlosions. For the next 3 turns, nothing changed. After those 3 turns, both Pokemon's HP was depleted, but the battle didn't end. Please used Pain Split. The Celebi emitted a sharp noise its Cyndaquil did, and then it died. The background turned an intense red. After a while, the screen went completely dark. I kept pressing the D-pad, though I wasn't sure if it did anything. Why? A text box appeared. I pressed A to close it. I was certain now the battle had ended, and I was in a completely dark area. I checked my team, but there was nothing left. The trainer card was completely blank. Every time I pressed the directional keys, a new dialog box appeared. ... What did I do wrong? It hurts. I can't see anything. Why? After these texts appeared, no further input could trigger new ones. I realized the game had reached its final moments. I checked the trainer card again, and Ethan had lost color. His eyes were gone, and even his name was blank. His eyes were hollow, and blood was still dripping. The unknown on my team had transformed into 6 I am dead unknown, as it had spelled that. After a long time, the screen lit back up. The graphics now looked something from the Game Boy Color area. Ethan, now without limbs or eyes, stood in the middle of a graveyard, and no matter what I did, he wouldn't move. I tried restarting the game, and it worked. When I loaded the save file again, the game turned to a black screen. This time, even the bottom screen's menu was gone. After an unknown amount of time, a dialog box popped up in the Game Boy Color style, with each character appearing at an abnormally slow pace. I got what I wanted. Now it belongs to me. After those texts were displayed, the bottom screen became active again. I checked my team for the final time. There was still nothing. But the trainer card was vastly different now. Ethan's name had changed to gold. His appearance matched the gold and silver versions, but his eyes were deep red and he was smiling. His money was maxed out. Game time was 999 minutes and 59 seconds, and there were 16 badges. The person on the trainer card wasn't gold, nor was it the previously killed Ethan. Gold's death and lost silver didn't change, but his desire not to be forgotten persisted, transforming into a vengeful spirit identical to his appearance. It sought a way to remain remembered by the new generation, so it killed Ethan and took his place in the 4th generation world. This gold was merely an empty shell. I turned off the game and sealed the cartridge back in its box. To this day, I don't remember where I put it. Since then, I rarely play remakes anymore, fearing that a similar tragedy might happen again. The vengeful spirit of gold succeeded. Through such cruel methods, it left me with an unforgettable impression. I can never forget it. Forever. That is the end of today's story. Be sure to check out my horror story playlist if you want to see more of my content, and I will see you all next time.